So the internet has basically been on fire for the last 24 hours talking about all the specs for the Mavic 4 Pro. We have pretty much everything. So let's jump in. We're going to talk specs, we're going to talk some surprises, and I'm going to give you my thoughts. All right, let's talk about the top line specs. So obviously we still have that Hasselblad sensor, that Hasselblad camera. That's our main camera. It is still a micro four thirds sensor, though it is claimed to be next generation, obviously an update from the Mavic Pro 3. Stills resolution, they are claiming that it can shoot up to 100 megapixels. This is a rumor that we were hearing. We weren't sure if it was going to be the main camera or if it was going to be all the cameras combined into sort of a quasi panorama mode. But it does sound like that sensor itself will be capable of 100 megapixels. This is very similar to how Apple has marketed the iPhone as a 48 megapixel camera. This is a Bayer sensor. It's a Bayer quad sensor, which means that each pixel is technically made up of 4 different subpixels. Now, that's not a bad thing. Each of those subpixels is capable of managing different colors, red, green, and blue, but they can also independently manage luminance data, brightness, which is great. And then combined, you would get a 24 to 25 megapixel image. Video side, which is where it combines all those things together, you will be getting 6K at 60 frames per second and 4K at 120. Now, DJI is claiming that this sensor is going to be capable of 16 stops of dynamic range, which is crazy. If you think about kind of top of the line mirrorless full frame cameras, the best you're probably going to be able to get is 13 and a half, maybe 14, depending on the technology that's involved. Now, moving over to the 2 telephoto cameras, these were actually the cameras that I was the most interested in seeing updates on, and we've got it. They are not identical as I had previously anticipated. One, the mid-tele camera, as they're calling it, which is a 70mm lens, is a 1/1.3 inch 48 megapixel sensor. The sensor is going to be capable of 4K 60 in HDR and 4K 120. Meanwhile, the long telephoto lens, which is a 168mm equivalent, is going to be a 1/1.5 inch sensor with an effective 50 megapixel resolution. Now, that lens will also be capable of 4K 60 in HDR, although at the top end, it will only be capable of 4K 100 when shooting in standard dynamic range. So it sounds like that sensor is just not going to be as fast on the readout side as the 1/1.3 70mm sensor. Now, we're going to talk more about the cameras and the video capabilities of this drone when we get into the surprise segment of the video. But next, I want to talk about obstacle avoidance. It looks like we're going to be getting LiDAR. As we had rumored, we just weren't sure where it was going to go. And we did get a post a few months back from Jasper Ellens identifying those little nubs on the ends of the arms that may actually, in fact, be LiDAR projection units. And now we're learning that that is, in fact, the case. And DJI is touting that this drone will be able to operate in 0.1 lux. That's 1/10 of a candle. So obviously the obstacle avoidance system is going to be omnidirectional with up and down and left and right and back and forward, but that forward facing is going to be handled by the LiDAR system, which is also a question that we had considering the fact that this camera system is taking up the entire front of the drone. Which brings us to the front of the drone. Again, as we reported, this gimbal will be able to do a full, I don't know, like a full spin. It can turn all the way around. You'll be able to shoot vertical video in it. And DJI is branding this the Infinity Gimbal. Wind resistance is rated at 12 meters per second. Max speed in sport mode is 25 meters per second, and they do have a registered flight time of 51 minutes. And as we've discussed in the past, that is as a result of that much larger battery that they have put in this drone. 20+% larger than the previous model. Coming equipped with OcuSync 4 Plus, O4 Plus, which will allow it to go 30 kilometers. But we'll talk in just a minute about what O4 Plus means. So now I want to talk a little bit about some of these more in-depth specs. And I want to start with the main camera, this 100 megapixel camera with a 16 stop dynamic range. The one thing that we're hearing about this that I find very interesting is the fact that this camera has dual native ISO, as well as a feature that they're calling Hasselblad's natural color solution. Still a variable aperture, but now f2 to f11. That is a 10 blade physical mechanical aperture, which means that in environments where you want to get a star effect, you can stop that lens down like you would with a larger mirrorless lens and get that star effect on things like sunsets and sunrises and other light points. And that all pretty much tracks with what we had expected and what we were hearing. But now moving on to the mid-tele and tele lenses, that's where we get some good news and some bad news. So I'm going to start with the good news. The good news is that both of them have had their apertures improved to f2.8, whereas previously the long telephoto was an f3.5. Not unlike the main camera, these lenses will also support dual native ISO. And both of these lenses will support D-Log. That was one of the things that I specifically talked about in one of my previous videos, is really hoping that they would support the full D-Log color profile and not just D-Log M. So the larger aperture, D-Log, and dual native ISO means that these lenses are effectively designed for low light performance. And that's great if you shoot in low light. But what if you don't shoot in low light? What if you shoot in bright light? That's why we're really hoping for a variable aperture, a mechanical aperture on these telephotos. And unfortunately, we didn't get that. They are locked at f2.8. But the other thing that it's going to support at 30 kilometers of range is 10-bit HDR video. Now, DJI claims that they are using next generation proprietary algorithms to cut through the airwaves to get us this 10-bit signal to your controller. And I'll be real honest, this was a bit of a surprise. The controllers from DJI have always been super bright, and we're going to talk about the RC2 Pro in just a second, but they've always been super bright, and so the ability for them to actually produce an HDR signal seems to make sense. So why not send the HDR signal from the drone in full 10-bit? But again, if you think about it from the standpoint of low light performance, right? So if you're shooting a sunset or a nightscape and you want to be able to differentiate between the dark and light portions of your image, that is a lot easier if you have the much wider gamut of color and brightness that you get with an HDR signal. The spec that I was hoping to see that I had mentioned in a previous video was that at least the Cine version would be coming with ProRes RAW or ProRes and 444 chroma sample recording. That was apparently something that was planned potentially in a premium version of the Cine, but that has since been nixed, likely as a result of US-China trade relations issues. Now, the RC2 Pro controller is pretty interesting and unique. It is bigger, and it is coming not with the screen built into the front as the previous RC controllers have been, but as a foldable version that actually will pop out, which when you actually do the slide out, it actually kind of looks like when you would take the old controllers for the Phantom and like throw on an iPad mini. That was like the way to go back in the day. And that's basically what you have here. With that super bright mini LED screen, this is what you have on like MacBook Pro screens, right? Mini LED is really the future of dynamic, bright. So 7 inches, which is very exciting. Foldable, also very exciting. One really interesting thing about it is they're pushing hard on the vertical video side of things. And because of the fact that you do have that infinity gimbal with the 360-degree turning and the ability to shoot in a full vertical without any sort of loss in resolution, the screen on the controller will flip to be vertical. So if you are just a 100% vertical drone flying shooter, this controller will effectively show you everything that you're going to see in that vertical mode. The last item, which isn't really a surprise, I reported on this, we had the details on this before. The Pro will actually be coming in a couple of different versions. There will be the base Pro, there'll be the Pro with the Fly More combo, and then there will be you're going to have the kind of base Pro, which will actually only come with 64 gigabytes of onboard storage, the Fly More combo, and you're going to have the Creator combo. Now the Creator combo is going to be coming with the additional storage. It's actually going to come with 512 gigabytes of storage. The Creator combo is also where you're going to be getting the additional batteries, the 245 watt charger, and the ND filter. But on the ND filters is where we get to talk about some of the stuff. But on the ND filters, that's where I kind of have to give you my thoughts. So I'll make this quick. There are tons of advanced technologies in this drone. There's tons of great stuff, and I'm super excited about a lot of what we got. But I will say I am a little disappointed that we didn't end up seeing the electronic ND filters. I'm also a little upset that we didn't see the variable apertures in those tele sensors. Also hoping that we would have gotten a little bit of a sensor bump. And while I understand that it's more politically motivated and that there's a lot of other stuff going on, it still now doesn't come with ProRes. Now, I do appreciate the fact that the base price on this drone is still at $2,200. And while the Fly More combo is more expensive at $2,800, the Creator combo with the faster charger and the storage on board is $3,800. So it's $1,000 for 512 gigabytes of storage and the additional power charger. Those are Apple prices when it comes to storage, which was a bit of a surprise, to be quite honest. Now, all these prices are assuming that we're in a different world and you could buy these things in euros, pounds, or dollars at around the same price. Obviously, that's not the case. We have no clue what US release timelines will look like or what prices will look like. So European markets are expecting this to be available for purchase, at least the entry level of the 4 Pro, on the 13th of May. Thank you to Haka Sushi for finding some marketing materials that indicated what the European release would look like. But again, here in the US, we have no idea. We'll just have to wait and see. But those are the details that we have. That's the information on the Mavic 4 Pro. Those are the specs. Those are the surprises. That's the pros and cons and the things that I thought were exciting and also disappointing with this release. Hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, go ahead and hit the subscribe button. Go ahead and hit the like button if you found it interesting. I've got links to everyone who I got information from down below, as well as links to all of my social media. I am still doing my Instagram giveaway. My Instagram was hacked while my daughter was being born, while we were in the hospital, so I couldn't really respond to it quickly. And by the time we got home with our baby girl, my Instagram and Facebook were gone. I've been fighting to regrow my Instagram audience, so go ahead and find me down there. Anyone who follows me on Instagram and comments on this video or this video right here, saying that they followed me, liked all my posts, and maybe shared a couple of them, will be entered to win in a drawing for a bunch of the gear that I get from companies to review. I don't need all this gear. So I am giving it away to you. I am at this moment just under 700 subs. So help get me over to 1,000 so that I can start giving this gear away. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.